ihsan. And this is going to come up again later on in the khutbah. So وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا is having ihsan towards parents, but then he also says وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا وَبِذِي الْقُرْبَى, and to the needy, وَبِذِي الْقُرْبَى وَالْيَتَامَى وَالْمَسَاكِينَ, so and to the needy and to the close neighbor and to the far neighbor. And then he says, then the close friend and to the traveler. So you're not only having ihsan to your parents, but you're having ihsan to the needy person, to the neighbor, to the far neighbor, the person who's traveling and visiting. And then he says, and then to your wives, and this could even include your family. And then Allah says, Allah does not love those who are arrogant and boastful. And then he says the next verse, who are the ones who are arrogant and boastful? And Allah answers that question. He says the ones who are arrogant and boastful are the ones who are stingy and they cover the bounty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So they're people who, so Allah's making a statement. He's saying that the people who Allah does not love, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُحِبُّ مَنْ كَانَ مُخْتَالًا فَخُورًا, Allah does not love the ones who are arrogant and boastful. And then he says, الَّذِينَ يَبْخَلُونَ, and these people, they are the ones who are stingy and they command others to be stingy. SubhanAllah, this is like الَّذِينَ يَبْخَلُونَ وَيَأْمُرُونَ النَّاسَ بِالْبُخْلِ. Like the person is stingy in himself, but then not only is he stingy, but he's also stingy. It's such a negative effect on other people that it goes on with other people as well. He commands other people to do the same thing. And then he says Allah has bestowed, so they cover the bounty that Allah has bestowed upon this person. And then Allah says, we have prepared the people who are ungrateful or the disbelievers a humiliating punishment. So you'll notice the pattern here that Allah is referring to this person who likes to cover things. So the stingy person, he covers his bounty. The stingy person is ungrateful. Kufr comes from people who cover the truth. So kufr is not excluded to only people who aren't believing in Allah, but it's also people who are ungrateful. Right? Shukr, actually, the opposite of shukr is kufr. So it's being ungrateful. And Ibn Kathir refers to these verses and he says, there's a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, he says, وَأَيُّ دَاءٍ أَدْوَاءُ مِنْ بُخْلٍ. What is more serious than stinginess? What could be worse than stinginess? It's a hypothetical question. And then he says, the Prophet ﷺ, he says, إِيَّاكُمْ وَالشُّحَّ فَإِنَّهُ أَهْلَكَ مِنْ كَانَ قَبْلَكُمْ أَمْرَهُمْ بِالْقَطِيعَةِ فَقَطَعُوا وَأَمْرَهُمْ بِالْفُجُورِ فَفَجَرُوا. Beware of being stingy, for it destroyed the people who were before you. So the Prophet ﷺ is warning us to not be stingy. So beware of the people who are stingy, for the people before you were also stingy. And encourage them to cut their relations as they did. So the people who were stingy, they cut their relationships with their families. And then it says, it also made them commit sin, and then he emphasizes as they continue to do this sin. So again, to make sure everyone's on the same page, what is stinginess? I mean, if you look at the actual dictionary of someone who's stingy, is essentially someone who's unwilling to give or spend. And subhanAllah, Allah here is not only warning us, but also the Prophet is saying here, is that it destroyed nations. This was a cause of how communities were destroyed. Now let's look at this actual disease. There's a scholar by the name of Ibn Qudama. He writes a text called Minhaj al-Qasidin, and he goes into detail about all these diseases and sicknesses of the heart. And today we'd like to discuss this disease of bukhl. As we mentioned before, it's something that not only destroys a person inside, but it destroys the people around them as well. And we'll find a common trend of whether it's stinginess, jealousy, greed, any of these characteristics, they have a tendency to make other people fall down around them as well. So it's not only yourself, but it's around the people around you as well. The Prophet ﷺ, so let's look at the causes of miserliness or stinginess. The Prophet ﷺ, he says, may he be miserable, the worshipper of money, and the worst part, and the worshipper of stripped silk. If he's given anything, he is satisfied. But if he's not, then he is not satisfied. And this is narrated in Bukhari, and it was interesting, Imam Ahmad, rahimahullah, he was asked a question. He said, if someone was given loads of money, like $100,000, let's say, or even $1 million, if someone was given $1 million, can this person still be a zahid? Can this person be a righteous Muslim, someone who is practicing? Can money be an influence on someone? And he says something very interesting. He said, yes, if the money is in his pocket and not in his heart. So if someone is able to control money in the way that it's not controlling their heart. So let's say for example, let's say if you're someone who goes through a very difficult time, and you lose about maybe $6,000 just because of maybe a car accident or maybe rent or something happened. The way, or even let's say, for example, in any case or any matter, let's say even look at the opposite side. Let's say someone who's given a prize of $10,000, scholarship $10,000. Now look at, and we're going to talk about even the habits of Umar, right? One time he was on the minbar, or he was actually in the masjid, and money was coming in for zakah, and it was flowing in, and he was like, "Wow!" He's like, "This is what's up." He's like, all this money coming in, and subhanAllah, he in his mind he had the thought of saying that he's like, I run this place. He said, I'm the king of the world. That's pretty much what his initial thought was. So what he did is he gets up onto the minbar and he makes the adhan. So usually when the adhan happens, when there's no prayer, it's like a shout out for war. And subhanAllah, so all these people come rushing in, and then what he says to them, he says, I was a shepherd. And then he sits back down. In simple words, that's literally what he said. He said, I first started off my life as a shepherd. And he really just wanted to humble himself and let people know this is the type of person he was. And you'll notice going to this point, the first characteristic we're looking at, or the first cause of stinginess is someone who's ungrateful and not content with what they have. And so if a lot of money comes, their situation changes. If money is taken away from them, their situation changes. And we find that Imam Ahmad, he's describing here, is that if someone was given loads of money, he can still be someone that's a righteous Muslim. It doesn't make a difference because the money is in his pocket, not in his heart. That's the first. The first is someone who's ungrateful and not content. The second is someone who's in constant competition of worldly things. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said, if the son of Adam was to be given a valley of gold, then he would seek another valley of gold. And if he was given 2 valleys of gold, he would go seek a third. And he says nothing would satisfy him except for dirt in his mouth. It's just an expression saying that all he wants is money and money and money. And subhanAllah, I was actually watching, there was this video that was kind of going into the study that UC Berkeley did. A very interesting study. It was talking about how in our consumer society, we find people who are consistently, in any relationship that we have, we find people who, let's say, and this is a perfect example. We look at the story of the two men, of the man of the 2 gardens, right, in Surah Kahf. We find that this person, he does things. So to give you a very simple example, let's say someone is coming to an event, let's say a dinner party, and then someone's like, yeah, I just came in my new 7 Series BMW. Yeah, it's like, it just took me about 5 minutes to get here, but I came in my BMW 7 Series. But you made that statement to show and emphasize that you have a BMW, right? And then maybe, and the person you're talking to is someone who may be driving maybe a very simple car, maybe just a regular Toyota Camry. I'm not saying anything wrong with the Toyota Camry. I have a Honda Civic myself, but it's just a simple car. But you say it in a condescending voice, right? And the same man in Surah Kahf, he talks about how this person I look at my gardens, look what I'm doing with these gardens, and you have nothing, right? And this same mentality is engrossed in our society. And we find that the same study was talked about how if you took two people, they found consistent trends that people disliked when people talked about materialistic things of their own. So they preferred when people talked about experiences. So for example, someone goes on vacation, right? And they talk about, I went to this restaurant and this, that. Like, it may seem like, in that same scenario, people can boast about what they did, this and that. But what happens is if you're talking about things that you own and things that are materialistic, the things that you have, people have a tendency to dislike you and dislike whatever you have. And subhanAllah, we look at this, it becomes poisonous. What happens is if you have someone in your company and you're always that person, always talking about what you have, what this person doesn't have, people get tired of you, man. Like, it's annoying. And so here the same cause is what drives people to be stingy. And this concept of bukhl. So we talked about two causes here. One is someone who's consistently ungrateful and not content with what they have. And this is what drives people to be stingy. The second is someone who is always in a state of mind of competition. Right? Sometimes it's healthy to be competitive, but when it's always about money, when it's always about your job, always about all these things of this dunya. There was a saying of a famous scholar, but he said that you'll find contentment in people who don't have expectations of this dunya, right? And what's very interesting is that, if let's say you have a relationship with someone and you always have, and your reaction to let's say you expect something from them. But the way you react to that is kind of shows your personality and the way, how content you are with things, right? Even if whether it's with your spouse or your kids or your friend. Your friend said he's gonna be coming to this, he's gonna be coming tonight to chill with you, right? But then he just doesn't show up and he doesn't even answer his phone. You could get really pissed about that, or sorry, my mistake. You can get really upset about that, right? But you find that people are very, the way you react to certain situations can show the type of personality you have, right? And this is it can become very dangerous with people who you interact with, right? And even with relationships with your family, right? If you have your spouse and you're always getting upset over things that you expect from her or him, then it tends to destroy your relationship. I'm not saying not to have expectations, but it's a matter of how you react to those expectations. So that's the two causes, and let's take a look at a different angle of stinginess. There's two. The scholars discussed about two types of stinginess, two types of miserliness, of how people go about being stingy. The first is someone who's stingy with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it was actually there was a point in the time of Abu Bakr radhiyallahu anhu where an entire people decided not to pay zakah. Right, so when you ask yourself, what is being stingy with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? The first thing that comes to mind is someone who doesn't pay their zakah, right? Who does not give money to when it's due. Essentially, zakah is actually not your money, because what's happening is supposed to be meant for the people who need it. And so what happened was there was a community or village or town. They said that we're cool with everything Islam. Islam is cool, everything, but we're not going to pay zakah. We don't got time for that. We're just not going to do it. And this may seem very, very harsh, but Abu Bakr treated these people as they had been considered to be out of the fold of Islam. Right? Why? Because this is such a huge matter. Right? We're talking about someone who's not fulfilling one of the biggest obligations of Islam. Now, obviously, you don't go around telling people this, but this is showing the value of your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And another angle of being stingy with Allah is someone who is a minimalist and does the bare minimum. So they don't bother to do extra acts. So even if it's something to do, because a lot of times if you have a garden and you could just have trees, right? Which would be nice and dandy, but then you can have flowers, and you can have, let's say a date tree or a grape tree. Or you have a whole variations of different parts of your garden that really show an impact on that. So the point being is someone who's not a minimalist when it comes to deeds with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The second and more common is being stingy with people. Now, to give you an insight on this, let's say you have a dinner at your house, and someone comes, and this happens very often. Someone comes to this dinner, and younger kid, maybe even or an adult, and they drop some soda on the carpet, on your brand new carpet. How you react to that can actually vividly show or directly show how you are with people and your personality. Ask yourself if someone dropped this is not like the clear soda. You know how like sometimes our moms always buy the clear sodas for dinner parties. I'm talking about like, Coke or Pepsi has fallen on your brand new carpet. How do you react to that? Right? Are you more worried about the carpet or how are you going to deal with this person? Right? This is how these are the type of relationships with people. How is our relationship with people? And this is exactly the same verse from the beginning when Allah says, not only right, but for the people your neighbor close to you, the traveler, the person who's your wife, your family. Like, how do you deal with people like that? Like, if something small, a very small matter happens, and you just get very upset about it, right? That kind of shows the kind of personality you are, right? And this is the example of someone who's stingy with people. Another example is whenever it comes to anything with Allah, never ever bargain. Right? There's been stories of people who bargain like shrouds. They haggle, like they argue about the cost of a shroud. Right? You're about to bury your family member, and you're going to talk about the price of your shroud. Right? And subhanAllah, we look at this as an example of when it comes to these things, don't bargain. When it comes to like Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha, like the zakat that you give, zakat al-mal, zakat al-Fitr, these things, just don't argue about the price. Like, you'll find yourself in a lower position if you're someone who's bargaining over a price for zakat. And the last thing I'd like to mention is this is a very powerful hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, is narrated in Tirmidhi. He says, "As-sakhil al-fajir ahabbu ila Allah min al-abid al-bakhil." Right? The stingy worshipper. So actually, the one who is the non-stingy sinner is actually more beloved to Allah than the person who worships and is an abid and he's stingy. That's powerful, subhanAllah. Like, if you're someone who just like, there's actually a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ talking about, there was two people. One was he always relieved debts of people. Like he had that much money that he didn't have any problem relieving people's debts. But he didn't pray, he didn't do these things, he didn't really practice Islam. But then you have someone who's stingy and who always has this characteristic of holding back money, not giving to people. Allah granted him paradise over this other person, right? Allah is this person is more beloved to Allah than the other. And it just shows the impact of someone who's stingy. Right, and as we mentioned before, the Prophet said that stinginess destroyed nations before. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله. Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. In another verse in Surah Nisa, Allah talks about a few things that can kind of help us. So we talk about the causes and the problems and this problem, but how do we help ourselves address these problems? So we find in Surah Nisa, Allah says, there's a verse, وَإِنَّ امْرَأَةٌ خَافَتْ مِنْ بَعْلِهَا نُشُوزًا أَوْ إِعْرَاضًا. So then he continues on and says, وَأُحْضِرَتِ الْأَنفُسُ الشُّحَّ. Right? Like, Allah is not pleasant with the one who is stingy. وَأُحْضِرَتِ الْأَنفُسُ الشُّحَّ وَإِن تُحْسِنُوا وَتَتَّقُوا فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ كَانَ بِمَا تَعْمَلُونَ خَبِيرًا. But if you have these two characteristics I'd like to talk about. The first being ihsan, and the second being taqwa. Right? There's like a famous saying of one of my teachers. He says there's taqwa and then there's fatwa. Right? You have the minimum obligation is, all right, this person owes you $1,000, but and he better pay me back. And it's going to go down if he doesn't pay me back. That's okay. I mean, the minimum obligation is you And there's actually a very close family member of mine, extended family. I found out sometime later that someone had borrowed, someone wanted about $700-800 just to borrow. And subhanAllah, like, I found out that this person just ended up just forgiving this person's debt, right? And you'll find that this as much as it may seem that this is something very small, or maybe in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, forgiving people's debts is one of the greatest things you can do. And we just mentioned that someone who could be the worst person, but he's there just forgiving people's debts, right? There's someone who has to pay someone back, but he's letting him go. It's fine. You don't have to worry about it, right? Even if you're a kid at school, like you have like someone give him like $3 for lunch. Like, if it's your best friend, or even if it's someone who asks for it, don't be like that one guy who, like, the next day, I need my $3 back, like, right? And even as a parent, it's something that instill in our kids. It's like, when we're at school, like, you don't be that one person. I remember there was a kid in high school. I gave him a quarter just to borrow. This doesn't have much to do with stinginess, but I gave him a quarter to borrow, but it was a week later, he's like, oh, my bad, I completely forgot. Here's a quarter for you. Like the quarter I borrowed, right? It seems small, but this is the type of personality someone is if you're someone who is honest with their money, honest with how you deal with people, then it goes a long way, right? And going back to that same verse where Allah says, وَاعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَلَا تُشْرِكُوا بِهِ شَيْئًا وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا, right? It's having ihsan to your parents, but ihsan to the people around you. And a perfect example of this is Musa alayhi salam, right? He just killed a dude, and he's walking back, he's in the desert, and he finds himself like literally helpless. He has nothing to do. Honestly, the first thing in your mind is I need to get some food, I need to get some water, I need to do something about my current situation right now. But what does he do? He finds two women who are in need of some help. And he starts helping them with collecting water, and with their sheep. And it's just like the mentality of someone who serves. Like the Prophet was someone who was a leader, but he served people, right? And this is the word ihsan comes from. And Allah saying, وَإِن تُحْسِنُوا وَتَتَّقُوا, right? If you want to cure this stinginess, is be someone who is above like the minimum, and also someone who does things that are extra. Right? If your mom needs help with the dishes, like that's what you gotta do. You don't need to do it without asking. Or if you need to take the trash out, like it's that easy. Or let's say someone needs help with the masjid, someone needs help with their car. Go out of the way to help them. Right? This characteristic will reflect on you in the long run. You're gonna find someone who you won't have any difficulty giving money, even in your state where you have literally no money. Right? Allah talks about the people of taqwa are those who spend when they don't have anything, and they spend when they have something. Right? We ask Allah to be among those who aren't stingy. And we also ask Allah to make us among those who have ihsan, who have taqwa. And we ask Allah to cure those who are sick, and to help those Muslims and non-Muslims who are suffering from injustice around the world. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. أقيموا الصلاة إن الصلاة كانت على المؤمنين كتابا موقوتا. Straighten the lines, inshallah. Allahu Akbar. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين ألهاكم التكاثر حتى زرتم المقابر كلا سوف تعلمون ثم كلا سوف تعلمون كلا لو تعلمون علم اليقين لترون الجحيم ثم لترونها عين اليقين ثم لتسألن يومئذ عن النعيم الله سمع الله لمن حمده الله الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين ألم تر كيف فعل ربك بأصحاب الفيل ألم يجعل كيدهم في تضليل وأرسل عليهم طيرا أبابيل ترميهم بحجارة من سجيل فجعلهم كعصف مأكول الله سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Our guest khatib today is Brother Omar Al-Abbasi. Jazakallahu khair for your khutbah, brother. A couple of announcements, inshallah. On Fridays, we have a lot of brothers and sisters, mashallah, that come directly from their jobs, and once they pray, they go straight back to work. Maryum Center was wondering if we could be helpful to these brothers and sisters and have lunch here. If you don't have time to stop by and buy lunch, we can have something for you here. If you are interested in purchasing lunch, whether pizza or cheesesteaks, we will do something different every Friday, inshallah. If you are interested in that, please speak to me so we can make arrangements for you to have something here before you go back to work. School will not be on tomorrow. We have the day off, inshallah. We will resume school on Monday evening. But Sheikh Mahmoud's halaqa after al-Fajr tomorrow will be on, and Sunday Sisters halaqa will be on as well. I have a few boxes of dates outside. If you are interested, it's $15 a box. It's donation to the masjid. And if you have any questions about our school or about the Hifz program with Sheikh Kamal, please ask me. I will be happy to answer your questions, or go on our website. And please don't forget to donate to the masjid. Jazakumullahu khair.